as well as Ken. We'll give you 2 minutes. If we can get the crowd to keep the noise down a little bit so it can be fully recorded on TV. At the beginning 2 minutes, you'll have a chance to talk about yourself. I'd like you to answer what unique qualities, strengths, and skills you bring to the role of state representative for 15A. In short, why should people vote for you? And we'll start first with Sandra. And you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. It was on mute, and that's a good thing when you're not on stage. Thank you very much. I'm Sandra Erickson. I think you know that I no longer represent this area, although I did represent you from 2002 to 2008, and then in after the election of 2010, until redistricting took place in 2012. So it's great to be back. Some of you remember that my late husband revived your basketball program in the late 70s and was coach here until Paul took over for him, and now I think Paul is retired too. So I have very close connections here, having sat in the bleachers for many, many games those 3 years that my husband coached. He did not teach, he was a late coach, but had the basketball team and tried to revive the great Norm Coleman traditions. So what I bring to the table as a legislator who has served you previously and will continue to serve, I hope, God willing, in the future is a deep knowledge of this area. I understand agriculture. I also understand what it's like to be a commuter to the Twin Cities or to St. Cloud or to some other area to seek your employment, to bring home the family income, to get the children off to school and then leave and come home and take care of your family needs. Also, as you know, in 15A, Lake Mille Lacs is a very important part of the economy. The area around Lake Mille Lacs in Mille Lacs County provides almost 1/3 of property tax base, and in the last 28 years, the DNR has made some decisions based on the co-management with the 8 Ojibwa tribes. This resulted from the 99 Supreme Court decision. But the DNR has made some decisions that have really hurt the economy. Needless to say, also probably the lake, although the lake has its ups and downs. So really the economy. So I think those three areas.
Yes. I forgot to mention, Holly here is doing the timing. So when you have 30 seconds left, she'll be giving you the signal. Yes, kind of over here. And then she'll give you the stop sign when your time is up. Ken?
Yes, my name is Kent Lestrud. I live in rural Mille Lacs County, grew up in southern Minnesota, farm country. My wife and I have 4 children. The oldest is 29 and finally out of the house. We have 3 school-age children that go to public school. I have 6 years military experience, including attending many military leadership schools. After that, I graduated from St. Cloud State. I have been a middle school math teacher in Princeton for about the last 20 years. The reason I'm running for office is I'm very concerned about what I see happening with education. I'm also concerned that it seems like we pay our dollars for taxes to St. Paul and we don't get everything back that we've paid in. I'm concerned about lack of internet access in our area, transportation funding, health care, senior care. All of these are issues that I think we need to be tackling.
Thank you. You can keep the mic, Kent, for the next question. If you are elected, what would be the top 2 priorities that you would work on during this next legislative session? And you have 2 minutes.
You know, it's interesting. Not an issue so much as when I've been out door knocking and meeting people, the one issue I hear over and over isn't taxes or transportation or health care. An issue is gridlock. And people just want to see something get done. So one of the things that needs to happen is people need to work together in St. Paul to end the gridlock. Do what's best for Minnesota. As far as another issue, health insurance is a huge huge issue. And it's really healthcare costs, because there's also the issue of people that have health insurance, but their deductibles and co-payments are so out of control, it's almost worthless insurance. So those are two issues.
Okay, thank you. Sandra?
The healthcare issue will be a top priority, even if the governor does call a special session. And remember, he is the one who can call it, so he might as well, call it and get down to business. By using reserves, it wouldn't be any part of the surplus. It would be part of the reserves that he's designated. It could be used as a Band-Aid. But we need a long-term fix for what's happened when we adopted an exchange called the MNsure. After the Affordable Care Act was signed into law by President Obama. That is going to need real attention, because those people who have used the exchange to get their policies, as you know, are seeing just insurmountable increases in their premiums. But this has been happening gradually as well. Minnesota is a state that has 70 mandates that insurance policies have to be written to address. So we've had a long-term issue in the last few years as more and more mandates have been added, and companies just could not cover all of those mandates in their policies. So some have left for that reason. But that, and of course the budget will be a really big issue, and with the economy failing a little bit in Minnesota, down because those of you who are farmers know that your commodity prices have been reduced because of the market. We're not exporting like we were, and that really affects the bottom line. So the reserve, or the surplus right now, is not that far above $100 million. So that's the extra dollars that would be available to spend, and that will have many, many demands. So thank you. Oh, I have 30 seconds left? That's what that means? Okay. Well, I was going to mention the gridlock issue. I work very closely with the Democrats in the Education Committee, as well as those across the aisle in other areas. But in the Education Committee, we work very closely, and I include, we had 50 items in our policy bill this last year, and half of those were probably DFL bills.
Thank you. And you can keep the mic for the next question. This came from the audience. As the demand for long-term care continues to grow, what would you do to encourage the development of more nursing home or assisted living facilities in Minnesota?
Well, that's an area in which the private sector really needs to step up to the plate. We're going to have in these private facilities, and you have some very good ones here in Foley, and we have some in Princeton. But what is happening is that, many of our seniors have not been able to plan or save, and so they're going to be relying on subsidies to help them get through their ending of life, whether they start in independent living and move to assisted living, or finally, end up in a nursing home. We did increase nursing home reimbursement by 5% 2 years ago. And we also, actually in 15, and we also did some rebasing. So the rates between Foley and Princeton now are aligned, or if you're seeking nursing facilities elsewhere. But, partnerships will work too, but by and large, we have to have the private sector realize that we have a very growing population in Minnesota, and so there's going to need to be a transition from when singles and couples leave their homes to before they're going to need that critical care. And in today's society, critical care is not like it was a few years ago. Critical care is actually critical, and if you look at our nursing homes, you see that the most critical stages now are really where we need nursing homes. So we need that in between. And so incentives that we can provide at the state level for the private sector to build these facilities, it is really going to be very helpful as we see our senior population grow and grow. And I look forward to working on those projects and also providing that steady reimbursement rate.
Thank you. Kent?
Could you repeat that question?
Sure. As the demand for long-term care continues to grow, what would you do to encourage the development of more nursing home and assisted living facilities in Minnesota?
The reality is it's going to be expensive. My wife works at the Elam Home in Princeton, And what she talks about is the staff turnover. There are the turnover of staff and constant training going on. The people are lasting 1 month, 6 months, a year, and they're gone, simply because they can make more money sometimes working at McDonald's or Burger King than they can doing elder care. And it's going to be expensive, and we need to provide our elders with quality of life towards the end. And so controlling that turnover is absolutely going to be huge, and the only way to do that is we need to pay more. So it is going to be expensive, and that's just how it's going to be. That's my answer.
Thank you. You can keep the microphone for the next question. I'm going to combine 2 questions. You'll have 2 minutes to respond to this. What are your thoughts regarding any improvements or investments in our education system? And as a part of this, one member here would like to know if you had thoughts about providing tuition credits for preschool, similar to the K through 12 expenses on income taxes.
All right. Here's what I think needs to be done for education. First off, the testing requirements going on in schools, it's completely out of control. We are testing our kids to death. We're developing young people that are really good at taking math and English tests, but that's all they can do. They're not getting a lot of the other classes. Funding has not kept up with the real world in education. You've seen class sizes go through the roof. For example, in my 7th grade math classes last year, I had 2 classes that had 38 students. Trying to teach math to 38 7th graders is not an easy chore. It's just too many students. In my building, at the Princeton Middle School, we've seen programs cut like art. Our art program's been cut in half. We no longer have industrial arts. We no longer have home ec. We no longer, our FIA program's been cut in half. We've cut music. All of this is being done because there's more and more emphasis is on the test. So those are a couple of things. I would also tie, or make it so no administrator or teacher could have any part of their wage or bonus tied to student test scores, because I've seen education decisions made against children based on test scores. I would like to see every student have 1 hour of movement every day. That means Phi-Ed or something like Phi-Ed. We have students that are not getting that. I would see students have 1 hour of creativity per day. That could be music, art, industrial arts, that type of thing. I would like to see the testing company in Minnesota be prohibited from selling test preparation materials to school districts. I think that's flat out wrong. As far as tuition credits for preschool, the more we can do to help the youngest learners, the better for everybody. So I am definitely for that.
Thank you.
Would you repeat the question?
Sure. And it was combining 2 questions. What would you do to support or improve investments in education, as well as what are your thoughts in getting tuition for preschool credited as a tax deduction on the parent's income tax, similar to expenses K through 12?
Well, let me say congratulations to Foley School District, and I know we have at least 1 board member out here. And thank you to the School Boards Association for naming me the Legislator of the Year. That's a real honor to receive that. But Foley does just such a fantastic job with the money that they receive. I think you have about a $17+ million budget, and a little more than $16 million of that comes from the state coffers. Remember, in the 1999-2000 session, we changed school financing to income tax and sales tax. So we're much more able now to increase school funding when the money is there, rather than relying on property tax. Although you can certainly have local levies to increase your funding. But Foley levies for less than $1 million each year, and you have a maximum effort loan for your facilities that will be forgiven in 2019. So I applaud you for what you've done. What we did this past session, or even the last year, was change the funding for education to the tune of 40 different changes that we made. One of those is very important because the equity that we're providing now for rural Minnesota is going to be, in another year, equal to the equity that the metro schools receive. And a lot of that is based on tax base. And we don't have a huge tax base in rural Minnesota, as you well know, certainly not in Foley or Princeton. And so it is, incumbent upon the legislature to look at those disparities. And we did a really good job, bipartisanly, by the way, in increasing that equity and changing it so that in the future our rural schools will see that same benefit. We also added other things like the maintenance has now been combined, and Foley next year will receive that levy in or that state aid.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
You can keep the mic, and so the next question will give you probably a minute and a half, and that would be, what ideas do you have just for economic growth in rural Minnesota? About an hour and a half ago, we had city council candidates and mayor candidates talk about encouraging business growth in Foley. How would you assist them in that?
Well, first of all, I want to say something about the tax credit for I guess it's for pre-kindergarten education. That is something that we did discuss this past session, but the state is becoming so much more involved in pre-kindergarten education that I'm not sure, other than for daycare and changing that, and our daycare system is really hurting. So I know that that will be an important topic that we cover in this next session, and tax credits do go along with that. But in regard to spurring economic development, we had in our tax bill some provisions that certainly would have made monies available to cities and counties, especially to cities, to small cities like Foley is, to be able to spur their growth. And you know what you have to do, and I've heard city council candidates and mayoral candidates talking about this, is have your infrastructure in place. And we have a great wastewater infrastructure fund in Minnesota, but you have to get on that list. And Foley knows about this because I worked with them before when I represented you. You get on the list and you accumulate the points so that you can qualify for these state dollars. So you have that. And then there are grants that are available through the Department of Employment and Economic Development. There are partnerships that are private and public. But they take a lot of work, they take time, they take effort, because you have to put together your plan, and you almost always get on a waiting list because the rewards are going to be given to those cities that are ready to entice someone to come. And so I'm hoping that in the area of technology that you can look forward to some improvements.
Kent, spurring economic growth.
Spurring economic growth, to do that we need businesses. Businesses will bring jobs. And in Mille Lacs County, and in our area, 15A, is all of Mille Lacs County, 2 townships in Sherburne County, and 7 townships in Connecticut County. What we need there is we need good roads and bridges, because businesses need that to survive. We also, in that area, we have huge sections where there's no internet availability. And businesses now need internet. If they don't have that, it's essential. And why would anybody right now come to certain parts of our area when the roads and bridges are bad and the internet's bad? So let's provide them what's needed to them to function in their day-to-day option or day-to-day business. And also, they want well-trained employees. We need to make higher education affordable. Nobody should leave a technical or community college or four-year college and be so far in debt it hurts you the rest of your life. So I think we need to provide good infrastructure, internet, and give them the opportunities they need, an even playing field with the rest of the state.
Okay, thank you. And you can keep the microphone for the next question. Talking a little bit about Minnesota's tax structure. It's often cited as our ability to attract new businesses into the state and as well as create jobs. But businesses as well as persons of accumulated wealth are reportedly leaving the state in search of better tax climates. Do you agree with this assessment? And if so, how would you make the tax environment more competitive for both existing and future businesses and retirees in the state?
I do not necessarily agree with that assessment, and what I'm saying is based on an article in the Minneapolis newspaper that came out in June. And that article cited that because of the higher tax bracket for people making, I believe it was $250,000 or more, that yes, some of them had left. However, most of them had stayed. At least 7% of them had stayed. And the reason they cited for staying was they liked the fact that their tax dollars were being used to provide things that they wanted to see. There are a lot of good things for staying in Minnesota. The other thing that was brought up is that many of the people that have left are working age, and they went to, the most popular place they went to was California, which is also has high taxes. So if we provide a quality culture and environment, I don't think we're going to see people leaving, because according to the Department of Revenue source that was in the Star Tribune, that's really not what happened.
Thank you, Sandra.
Well, I do agree with the assessment because there is proof that some of the businesses are leaving, not all of them, of course, because Minnesota offers some features that families like, and if they're involved in business, I think of the Dayton family. They certainly didn't leave the state because they had a huge investment in the state. But we have a corporate tax that is out of line with our neighboring states, and we have a statewide business property tax that small business has to pay, in addition to big business. But small business to get hit with that is not going to be encouraging. And it's not going to make you want to stay in business because you're paying your property tax, and you know how many different sections there are for that on your property tax statement. But also the statewide business property tax is a killer. And so we tried to repeal that, or at least gradually reduce that for our small businesses. We worked on the corporate income tax, we worked on corporate tax, and we also this year for seniors, we had in our tax bill, whittling away of their having to pay income tax on their Social Security, so we could keep seniors. We also repealed the tax on veteran retirement. Minnesota was one of a few states who was taxing, veterans, those who have served their 20 years and are receiving a retirement. Minnesota was one of few states that was still demanding that income tax be paid on that military retirement. So we did repeal that. So we have some encouraging things going on that I hope are going to keep people here. And of course, we need a well-rounded, great educational system.
Thank you. And you can keep the mic for the last question before the closing comments. We'll just do 1 minute. What suggestions do you have to break down the partisanship and divisiveness in state government? We saw that happen on the transportation non-funding for this current year. What thoughts do you have?
Well, actually, there's not as much divisiveness as the press reports. And, what you see are the sound bites from the House floor and the Senate floor debates. I have great respect for my DFL colleagues. In fact, I know some of them better than I know some of my own members because they served longer, and I have as well, and we've developed those relationships. Presently, I work on a study group for changing teacher licensure governance, as well as the licensure system, and we have an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, House and Senate both represented, and we work very collegially. So, I would say that, when you get right down there and you're in committees with us and in conference committee, that we are very cordial. I make trips with Senator Weaver all the time to education meetings, and just want you to know that we always have all of your interests first, not ours, but yours. And so whether a Democrat or a Republican, we work together to accomplish good for the people. And I want you to know that, because as you know, I've served long enough so that I have a real feel for what goes on. And I don't like to see those press reports where it makes us look like we're enemies.
Thank you, Sandra. Kent?
There's some natural factors that could play into this. For instance, no matter the party, I think we're going to eventually see rural versus metro. There's a lot of legislators from the rural or the metro area, and the rural area sometimes gets lost. And I can see both parties working together in the rural area to get things done. But there is partisanship, and if you remember back when Tim Pawlenty was governor, there was a handful of legislators, Republican legislators, that helped override a veto, and they were all kicked out of committee. They were all not endorsed the next election year, and they all ended up out of office within 2 years. And so there is this partisanship going on, and I have no doubt that people are getting along one-to-one. So when they come, they get in their groups, it becomes a group mentality, it's us versus them. If we can't get what we want, let's stop them from getting what they want. And it's not healthy at all. We just need to make putting what's best for Minnesota the top priority, and not party politics.
Thank you. And then you might as well keep the mic, and we will give you 1 minute closing. Anything that has not been addressed that you would like to say, feel free to include it.
I would just like to thank everybody for coming out. I think we've touched on a lot of the subjects I wanted to talk about, and I'm not going to take up any more of your time.
Sandra?
I also thank you, and please greet Paul Neubauer, your superintendent, because we used to teach together in Princeton, and he's a wonderful person, and I'm so glad that you get to enjoy him as your superintendent. I did want to say something about No Child Left Behind because it was brought up. It is no longer the law. It is now ESSA, which is Every Child Succeeds Act. And the testing that goes on in your school, called the MCA, the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment, is for federal accountability. And the ESSA, the new Education Act that the Congress signed, that the President signed and the Congress enacted last year, is going to hang on to that testing. So districts don't have to give any other tests than this test because it's for federal accountability. Of course, it's to make sure that all of our children have equal opportunity to show what they have achieved and how they're growing in their education. The other is that ESSA is going to require a lot of transparency. I shouldn't say a lot, it's going to require transparency, something that was not in No Child Left Behind. That was accountability. Now it's going to be transparency. So parents, you can look forward to knowing a lot more about what happens in the classrooms of your schools, because that's going to be a new requirement, and that's going to have to be reported on the report card. And I'm working with the Department of Education right now to see how we can adjust the report card so that parents have better information about how their children are succeeding. And thank you again, Foley.
Okay, thank you. It's just one quick note, a lot of there's a portion of the school district that does go into the representative district here for 15A. So we're very thankful you guys were willing to come to Foley, even though Foley itself isn't in your district, but definitely some of the school area is. So thank you for being here, and we appreciate your time.